Wayne Gretzky was my coach. I was in the NHL at 19.
The dark side of professional sports and being an athlete.
It's very ritualistic. You know, there's hazing that happens. You have to kind of earn your stripes, so to speak. So 6 months after taking these medicines, I had clear brain scans, went and did a large dose of ceremony, shifted my perspective. This medicine showed me why I was suffering so much. And then it took me to this place in between the clouds where I was able to communicate with everybody that had passed on. When you're in the present moment, you notice how beautiful the tree is. When you're running from meeting to meeting, you miss out.
Welcome back to the MBH podcast, Money Buys Happiness. Guys, you're tapping in. You know what to do. Like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Leave a comment. You guys have been doing something really cool. You've been commenting at the beginning, halfway through, at the end. It's been fucking good. You guys are just pushing the algo. We fucking love that, no?
Guys, tap into the Snapchat.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Exclusive content there. We're growing quickly.
Yep.
Super cool guest today, all right? Former NHL star.
Yep.
Turned entrepreneur. All right, Dan Carcillo. How you doing, brother?
Good, buddy.
Nice
Thanks
to
for
have
having
you.
me, fellas.
Thanks for coming, man.
Absolutely.
Before we start, we're going to actually try your product out.
Yeah, let's
all
get
right?
dialed in.
Got some holy water here.
Yep.
All right.
So this is a euphoric energy shot, 60 milliliter mushroom tonic shot. It's non-psychedelic, being sold in kind of the vape convenience store type of, also D2C.
Okay.
And it's got lion's mane extract for cognitive processing enhancement, cordyceps extract for energy. It's got ketones. It's got a little delta 9 for that euphoric calming down feeling, as well as L-theanine and niacin. So
I like
Cheers,
it.
boys.
cheers, boys. Yeah, man.
Cheers.
Cheers,
Here we
fellas.
go.
And it's 2 servings, but you could pound the whole thing if you'd like.
That tastes nice.
Not bad, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's PhD formulated by Jeremy Widman.
Okay.
One of the guys, I'm sure we'll get into it, that had a big hand in saving my life after concussions and getting out of the NHL.
Yeah.
So really well formulated and grass ingredients, healthy for you and makes you feel good.
Where can people get this?
So you can get it online at mycrewdoses.com.
Sick.
It's really it's a business and kind of community that we've started, but that's morphed into supporting people's wellness journey with products that promote rest, energy, euphoria. You can use it as a pre-workout. You can use it to wind down.
Nice.
So
I like it.
BJ McCassin, CEO. Cody Chandra is a founder, one of my good buddies and business partners, and
Yes.
we're excited about it. It just came to market last week.
Sick.
Congratulations,
Congrats.
bro. For anyone watching who might not know who you are or your story or what you do, can you give us a little introduction?
Sure. Yeah. So, Daniel Carcillo played 12 years professional hockey, 10 in the NHL, won 2 Stanley Cups with the Hawks, 164 fights, played that.
Love that.
Played that enforcer role, Canadian, from just north of Toronto, King City, Ontario. I've now come to the alternative health and wellness space with just a knowledge base in some of these alternative medicines like ketamine for depression, anxiety, working really in the healthcare space after my personal healing journey brought me to psilocybin, or the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, after 7 diagnosed concussions. It was the only thing that kind of brought me back after spending about $500,000 of my own money, going through the medical system, trying everything, getting pushed into some holistic tools like float tanks. I don't know if you guys have ever, self-deprivation, hyperbaric chamber. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. Peptides, IV, hormone therapy, making sure that our operating system and our body's naturally creating what it needs to create for us to feel good. And then also, some of these mushrooms and extracts that are really anti-inflammatory, and it's completely saved my life. And, now we're just kind of getting the word out to other people however we can. So appreciate you guys having me on.
That's amazing, bro.
Yeah.
We'll take it back a little bit to your hockey days. You were nicknamed the Car Bomb.
Yeah.
As soon as
What a name, dude.
I just Googled your name, and that was the first thing that came up, and I was like, that's amazing. How'd you get that name?
So a former teammate gave me that name. We were at Barney's in London, Ontario, on the patio, and he's like, "Man, I just got onto the Flyers, just got traded, played about 6 months, and like, we need a nickname for you." And back then I was 21. I was pretty rowdy on and off the ice. And Carcillo, car bomb came out of his mouth, and it stuck.
The rest is history.
Yeah, and it matched up with how I played. You know, one of my jobs is to be unpredictable and make sure that Kane and Taves and Giroux and Richards and Carter didn't have to worry about fighting, and they can go play their game and score goals. And doesn't really exist in the game today. It's kind of got weaned out, but it was a fun and honorable role to play.
Yeah. How is it being just a professional athlete in general? How was that for you?
It was, so it's weird, right? Everyone in Canada, to grow up thinking, I'm going to make the NHL. Every parent thinks their kid. My parents never forced me into it. Okay. I never really thought about it. It just kind of happened when I realized, 14 years old, looking around, King City, small farming town, what am I going to do? You know, and really just applied myself from 14 to 17, 18, and moved away from home real early, 15 years old, 16 years old, got drafted to the NHL, you know, when I graduated high school, turned pro. So it happened pretty quick, but I put the work in. You know, it's a lot of attention to detail, unconsciously giving up a lot of your kind of younger years. Obviously, there's times to have fun, and we had more than our fair share. But you grow up quickly, and I was in the NHL at 19. Wayne Gretzky was my coach. You know, broke into Arizona Coyotes, Grant Fuhrer, Ulf Samuelsson, so some old school dudes that we used to watch on Rock'em Sock'em. Yeah. And just really, you know, played every day like it was my last. I know it sounds corny, but when I got called up from the AHL, I went to the minors for a year and a half. Okay. I just said, man, I'm never going back, you know, didn't look back. Had a 10-year career, won twice, lost twice in the finals. So had 4 cracks at it. And wouldn't change anything for anything, man. It was a great run.
Going into it, I mean, getting drafted, did you know you were going to be that kind of enforcer? Like, did you have an idea that's what your role would be, or did you kind of grow into that as you got drafted?
Well, so I scored 30 goals a year. I was 165 pounds soaking wet. I knew how to fight because of where we grew up in Canada, but because I played the game so hard, and I would make thunderous hits and et cetera, try to shift the momentum of a game and agitate. Yeah, I knew that playing against men, you know, being in these training camps with these guys, their kids are in the room. I'm going to have to, and I'm an honorable guy, I'm going to have to learn how to fight. So I put on 30 pounds the year before I turned pro, and I ended up kind of just backdooring into it. I fought this guy named Kevin Cawley, super tough dude, would destroy guys at like kind of middle to lightweight, you know, section of the fighters. And then after I beat him up pretty bad, nice. I was in camp with all these Pittsburgh guys, the Penguins guys. Like, you never fight. Like, what's going on? Then everybody comes after you. Yes. And then it's like, well, I could use it as something else on my resume. That's the way I viewed it, right? It gave me a little bit of an edge over other people. Because there was one more thing that Daniel could do. Daniel could skate, he could shoot, he could pass, he could shift the momentum of a game, and he can fight, stick up for himself and his teammates. You know, that could maybe get me called up sooner than somebody else. That's how I viewed it.
Another bonus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question for anyone who's like a fighter in the league. Are you guys practicing how to fight as well off ice? Like, is that part of your training?
Some guys were. Yeah. Some guys were, yeah. So
just like boxing after training too?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And just hockey fighting is so much different than any other type of fighting. Number one, you don't got to obviously worry about legs and those types of things. You're not on terra firma. You're not on the ground. Okay. So it's a lot of leverage with your upper body and core. Yes. So, you know, usually if I'm coming at you and I know that you're a righty, I'm grabbing your right arm with my left hand, and I'm making sure that you can't reach me and punch me. And then I'm pulling as you're punching to get you off balance and get you within reach. Some guys would go into a fight, and one of my things was I would kind of spray my hand to get you back and disorient you a little bit.
Just fluster you a bit, yeah.
I fought Ryan Reeves one time, and he literally just he studied what I did, and then he caught my hand, and you could see it in the video. He was just moving me around. He was so much bigger than me, too. I remember he hit Kaner in St. Louis. I was on Kaner's line. I'm like, oh, man. I'm like, please not Reeves. Yeah. It was him. But he said that he would train, you know, and that was the first time I ever heard of it, you know. But guys around my era, I don't think they did too much in the boxing ring or anything like that.
Yeah. What was it like being on a team with those guys, by the way? Just because, like, I feel like that was, some people might call that team like a dynasty. Like,
Which team? Blackhawks?
yeah.
Yeah. So I was on Philly in 2010
Yes.
when we lost, and then I signed with them. You know, like anything, like a good business, right? You have a culture that is predominantly, you know, dominated by a very small group of men, and then everybody just follows and tries to play their part. And I mean, the core group of guys in Chicago had that, right? Where they were proven winners, and you could follow them easily. They weren't, you know, I'm sure we've all ran into people that try to lead by like forcing things down your throat, and they led by example. And it was just really easy to fall in line and kind of play your role, play your supporting role.
Yeah.
You know, one of my jobs was to like make it a little bit light because I didn't play that many minutes there. And also too, as I mentioned before, just make sure that they knew if anything happened, that I had kind of full autonomy to have their back.
True.
So, yeah.
And then as I guess more so like as a young man going into the league, mentally, how were you handling the money you were making, let's say the pressure now of being on these teams, you know, listening to your coach, making sure you're doing a good job. How was that at a younger age for you?
So you're a creator and you've decided to step into the wonderful world of OnlyFans. Listen, good luck to you. However, we know it's not always rainbows and sunshine, all right? When you step into that kind of industry, that kind of world, you want to get involved there, you got to make sure your back is covered legally. There are a lot of slimy people in the industry. Got to make sure you're checked out and all the boxes are checked correctly.
Enter OnlyFirm. These guys are the real deal when it comes to legal support for OnlyFans models. Picture this, an experienced team of individuals who know the industry like the back of their hand. We got the 3 C's, all right? Content protection, they got you covered. Contracts, they got you covered. Copyright registration, they got you covered.
And here's the kicker, okay? They're not just some cookie cutter law firm. They pretend they know what they're doing, this and that. No, they understand all the unique challenges as an OnlyFans creator. So leave the legal headaches behind, okay? With OnlyFirm on your team, get back to doing what you do best, creating content for your fans, make sure they keep coming back, and they'll take care of everything on the legal side.
So do yourself a favor, check out their Instagram page at The OnlyFans Lawyer and shoot them a DM with any questions. You'll thank me later.
And for any more information on their services, check out www.onlyfirm.com. All right, let's get back to this episode.
It was nice back then because, I mean, I got drafted in 2003.
Yeah.
So, you know, internet was kind of new.
Yeah.
There weren't these like phones that could record. True. We were able to have a little bit more autonomy and have our lives, especially starting out in Arizona for 2.5 years. Nobody knew who any hockey players were. But, you know, getting money and having the nice things, you know, the old saying, like, money doesn't buy happiness, but, you know, you work hard enough, it sure buys nice cars and nice food and, you know, things that can make your life a little bit more comfortable. So it was nice to have money. It was nice to be able to give back to my buddies. You know, I had a very tight, throughout my whole life, very tight core group of just 2 best friends. And you got to be careful, you know, you get along the way, you get taken, you know, as far as investments go and these types of things. So saving your money, saving my money, putting it into, you know, stocks and real estate early on in my career served me well. And that's just because of my parents, not anything that I knew or did. And then you brush shoulders with a lot of like really successful individuals, you know, so if you're able to listen to them and kind of ask the right questions and stuff, they're more than happy to kind of give you guidance, especially in now like these alumni associations. True. after you move on and retire.
Did you have any mentors in the league?
I was kind of a little bit of a loner,
Okay.
but I looked up to guys like Steve Thomas and Doug Gilmore and guys that just played the game hard, lived the right way, you know, treated people the right way, and then, you know, as Drake says in a song lyric, since you guys are Toronto boys, if you live the right way, your luck is a sure thing, you know, and I believe that, you know, you treat people the right way, and you know, I've been very lucky. I've worked really hard for everything that I have, but there's things that happened in my career that are kind of unexplainable. For example, like for me to get into a lineup, somebody has to either get hurt or we got to lose or we have to have a bad bounce or so it was always on me to just kind of, I always knew, I didn't necessarily need a mentor to tell me. I always knew I had to be ready for my opportunity. I didn't know when it would come, but just always had to be ready, which is, you know, as you guys know, just full on discipline. It's difficult. It's difficult, but we're trained for it, you know? Yeah.
And even in terms of, let's say, I know being an athlete sometimes can be a glorified thing.
Oh.
Where people look from the outside and they're like, "Oh, I wish I was Dan. You know, I wish I could play in the show." Let's talk a little bit about the dark side of professional sports and being an athlete too. I know that you came out. You said you were a victim of abuse at one point as well. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So there's it's very ritualistic. It's very there's hazing that happens. You have to kind of earn your stripes, so to speak. So apparently, and I still don't understand it to this day, but guys would get hazed, and we were no different. Our group had 13 rookies, and we got it pretty bad for a full year. Wow. And that was as I was, dealing with getting drafted. But the number one thought I always had in my head is, you're not going to quit because these guys are being hard on you. Yeah. Because as soon as you kind of speak up and go against the grain, if scouts hear that you're a problem in the room, you're done, especially in your draft year. So you swallow what you need to swallow. But then also, too, looking back on it, you have to speak up and then hold individuals accountable, or at least a system that it happened to everybody, right? So try to change that and influence that, because it doesn't really bode well for like team building when you got 16, 17-year-old kids scared of everybody in the room. It's not really a team atmosphere, and it was reflective of how we didn't win, even though we had a really sick team both of those years in Sarnia. So just learning from that and sometimes you just got to eat the shit, and in order to get to where you want to go, and it was worth it. I wouldn't change it for the world. But then also, hey man, I don't want it to happen to the next guy. It doesn't have to be that difficult, because it's already difficult enough, dude. Being an athlete, like it's hard.
Is that why you came out and kind of spoke about? Because I know other players joined you in that.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. A bunch of my teammates. There was 50 or so guys. We had a class action lawsuit against the league that's still, ongoing. Okay. Just to get guys justice and get guys, money for therapy and things of this nature. Yeah. And again, to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, that's my next question. Did it actually make any changes?
Not yet, but we're working on it. We're working on a system. Yeah.
I'm curious, when you say guys getting hazed, maybe I don't even know what the fuck that means straight up. So maybe
it's like when you're going to high school, you get ninered. You know the same kind of vibe.
Yeah,
like you're new here, you gotta earn your stripes.
You ever been in high school where grade 9s, they gotta push like a quarter down down the hall with their nose, like that type of stuff. But way more fucked up.
I mean, we had to,
I can imagine. I was gonna say, because at that age, and then you're also looking like, and this is the part of it I guess I could understand. Like, you're talking about a group of like alphas. Yeah. At the end of the day, like, you put a bunch of guys like that with that much testosterone in a fucking room together, a bus, a hotel, whatever. Like, again, not that it's right, but like almost like, what do you expect? At the same time?
Boys will be boys. That's for sure.
Well, that's why you're saying it's more the system too.
Yeah, more the system that encourages it. That guys. Listen, man, I'm all for, if you're a rookie, sit at the front of the bus. Just do the things that are respectful, that are, if there's an extra bag on the ground, pick it up. Those types of things. I'm all for that. But, some of the stuff that we had to do was like borderline.
Next level,
it was just weird, man. Yeah. And so I just don't think that those types of things need to happen in order for you to be successful, to have a good team atmosphere. So hopefully...
What's an example? You got to give me an example, because
I mean, like, just, getting paddled, rookie parties, just like...
Put a dress on.
Just boozing. I mean, a lot of kind of like... homophobic type of thing to make you feel less masculine, right? Because there are so many alphas. Okay. So this stuff is just, some of the things they do.
They're trying to demasculate.
Exactly. Embarrass you, you know what I mean? Okay. Bobbing for apples in coolers of water and piss and just hot boxes, the buses that have the little bathrooms. Yes. They would stuff, 6, 7 guys in there. Yeah. Just weird stuff.
Even when I went to the States, they made us do it too. Yeah.
You got fucked up?
Well, all we had to do is we had to sing a Beyonce song of our choice. Okay. In front of the whole team, like the full song, bro. It's kind of like a lot.
And when you get to the NHL, man, it's you pay for a dinner, and you pay. Yeah, you're paying low fives. Yeah, nice. And you sing a song, and you tell a joke about a veteran, or you. again, innocent stuff,
Of course.
you know, as opposed to the other stuff.
But you know, it
Get a little hairy.
affects everyone. It affects everyone differently, though. That's the thing. You know,
Absolutely.
like someone can take that with them for the rest of their life, and someone could just brush it off.
Well, so then now when I look back on my career, and now, you know, I study a lot of philosophers, and I've been in talk therapy for 20 years, and I obviously use medicines that expand my consciousness, and
Yeah.
I know where I'm kind of from. I questioned, right, would I have been as successful as I was without those events that happened to me? And the answer is absolutely no.
Yeah.
So then you can be grateful for those opportunities that pushed me into addictions, that pushed me into this crazy behavior, but it made me successful.
Yep.
Maybe I wouldn't have fought the way that I did. Maybe I wouldn't have. So spiritual growth is a nice thing to kind of look at, and you can look at the abuse, but you can take it for a positive, because I'm really happy with, you know, the arc of my career, you know, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take a stand against abuse and these other things.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, that's really where these medicines have kind of brought me to, which is a really, really awesome space.
I like that, though. I like that you're looking at it from the, like, you know, because I like to say everything's perspective.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you can look at it and be like, fuck, I can't believe this happened to me. This is the worst thing ever. Or you can look at it like you're saying, which obviously takes some time and a lot of effort to find that sort of light
Yeah, man.
in this, like, in these dark situations, to say, fuck, maybe I wouldn't have been who I am today if I didn't go through that, though.
It was 8 years, you know, like it didn't just happen when I retired in 15. I was mad. I had mild dementia symptoms. A couple of my buddies passed away with CTE, and like, but if I look back on it, I was kind of stuck in this victimhood mindset of blaming everybody else except looking at me, and I was angry and frustrated, and I was miserable, dude. Miserable, right? I was on the verge of suicide before I found some of these medicines to do exactly what you just said. They allowed me to shift my perspective of the world, to look at my role in everything, take responsibility, be grateful for it, and then move on, hopefully heal. And then now I know why I'm here on this earth. You know, it's to bring this message of, hey, I was on the brink of death, 30 pounds lighter than I am today. The before and after pictures you wouldn't even believe.
Wow.
And 6 months after taking these medicines, I had clear brain scans, clear blood work. I completely had my life back.
Yeah.
So that's the message, and that's why. But it doesn't happen right away. It's work. You know, you take those same skill sets you learned in hockey and you apply it to recovery. And I'm living a pretty good life now.
Was there okay, so like let's talk about that transition now, kind of moving into a better mind space and all that. Obviously, you keep saying the medicines, and we'll get into that in a second. Was there somebody specifically, or a fucking podcast you watched, or a conversation you had that kind of led you to say, hey, I'm gonna go in this sort of like organic medicine, you know, route and see what happens?
Yeah, so I was in it. So for 4 years, I was listening. In 2015, I retired, age of 30, 7 diagnosed concussions, slurred speech, headache, head pressure, insomnia, impulse control issues, light sensitivity, appetite loss, short-term, long-term memory loss, anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, like a completely different human being. I wouldn't be able to do things like this. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I was on a lot of pharmaceuticals. I was doing all of the things like CTE, brain banks, rehabilitation centers. They do ocular training, vestibular training, balance to try to take away these symptoms. And I saw a study, I was reading studies, clinical studies coming out on medicines, and I was listening to doctors that said, hey, we're going to identify the area of your brain that's shut down. Everyone thinks a concussion is on the whole brain, but it's on one of the 6 parts. Okay. And then we're going to wake it back up. I was like, oh, it's amazing.
Sounds
Here's
good.
my money.
Yeah.
But I mean, I was $500,000 in, and then I saw a study at the Imperial College of London with a brain on psilocybin and a placebo brain, meaning this person, the brain wasn't on psilocybin. Yeah. And I saw these right and left brain hemispheres connecting, and I'll send you guys the link after this. It's from the Beckley Research Institute. And the light went off. I'm like, whoa, this naturally could do what these doctors are telling me they could do through these intensive week-long programs. I'm like, I just can't keep doing this for the rest of my life. I don't know how or who can. Yeah. So I took an invitation to a farm in a decriminalized city, or state being Colorado. So I couldn't get prosecuted because these are Schedule I substances. And took brain scans, blood work. I knew how stigmatized, but if this could work, I wanted to back it up with science. Went and did a large dose of ceremony. so to speak,
Yep.
shifted my perspective. This medicine showed me why I was suffering so much, allowed me to make a realization that I could change it tomorrow. Tomorrow, with my thoughts and with my actions, I could change. Obviously, with the help of this medicine, it needed to take me out. I was in flight mode.
Yep.
It needed to help my nervous system calm down, wake my brain up. Woke up the next day, I can only describe it as feeling the way I should. Not everything was gone, but most symptoms either lessened in intensity or all but faded away within 3 months. Tested my brain and blood 6 months after, and here we are, man. And then I obviously became a huge advocate for advocating for these medicines, for supporting veteran organizations like No Fallen Heroes, who are helping to fund veterans and first responders to go down to Mexico and abroad to save themselves with ibogaine, another psychedelic, so to speak. So yeah, it's been a pretty crazy journey. And it was a former teammate in 2019. It's like, hey man, like I could tell that you're hurting, because I was on Twitter advocating extremely negative. So come on, man, come. I think this could help you. Completely changed my life in the summer of 19, and I haven't looked back.
Wow.
You know what? Like, you obviously know a lot more about fucking psilocybin and mushrooms and all those things than we do. You've obviously been studying it and reading into it. You have your companies now. But we are massive advocates for shrooms.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, the ceremony, we've done it. We've seen all that.
Hero
like,
dose.
Hero doses. We've gone in and just
Yeah,
like
buddy.
him and I and some friends, cottage. And like we always say, and again, this is probably like the most like, maybe this isn't how you should do it, but we would go do a couple grams each, whatever, 3-4 grams. And I can understand what you're saying. Like you wake up the next day and you're like, this is how I need to feel like all the time.
Just
Like
calm.
rebirth.
Clear. Things are clear. That's why we're always like, we've said it probably like 15, 20 times on this podcast across different episodes. Like, dude, you got it. Like everyone should try shrooms to some extent. Maybe not 5-6 grams at a time or whatever, but it's a life changer.
The way that I describe it is the best way I try to describe it. Number one, if you have bad habits, addictions, depression, anxiety, these are just habits, habitual thoughts that we're stuck in. It could help give you a new perspective and then change these habits into good habits. It can shake up the snow globe. We go down the hill, the ski hill, and all these ruts, get stuck in them. They're really hard to naturally get out of it with just thinking or meditation or exercise. And you can come in, use these medicines to help you repurpose your life, to help you make good habits from the bad ones. And then the second thing is, like, you guys have all, you felt the lizard brain, right? You feel, we all have a thought, oh, I know I need to do this. And then all of a sudden the second thought comes in, but wait, if you do that, this could happen, which is usually bad. And then another thought and another.
Worst case.
And all of a sudden, this first thought that we were very confident, that's our intuition speaking to us. So what psychedelics do is they shut off the second question, the third question, the fourth question. And you just intimately know, because you're so in tune and calm and in the present moment, that you need to do this. So just do it.
Yeah.
And that's like with a lot of the projects that we've recently created, because you feel a calling to get a good solid product or a good solid program, or building out real estate for the psychedelic assisted therapy space. FDA approved is another project we have, because where are people going to access this medicine?
Yeah.
So, my life is geared towards, just trying to get people to educate, be aware, but it's a fine poetry of trying to explain what's almost unexplainable.
Yeah, it is. Why do you think it's been so demonized in the last, I guess, 50, 60, 70 years, right?
Yeah, Nixon's war on drugs. We grew up in Canada, right? But we felt it a little bit. And Nixon's war on drugs, when that came in the late 60s, early 70s, it just shut all the research down. There's a lot of studies in the 50s, 60s, and 70s of LSD research being used for alcohol use disorder, MDMA for certain psychiatry disorders like depression, PTSD. There's a lot of really good research. But then as soon as you schedule something, a Schedule 1 substance, which is what they did with MDMA, LSD, mushrooms, cannabis, two things that grow freely out of the earth, but that's a whole nother story. Then it's Schedule 1 because it's highly addictive, and there's no medicinal value. So to be able to pull it off the shelf, if you're a researcher at Johns Hopkins and try to study it, it's like career death.
Yeah.
So everybody stopped studying it.
Okay.
And, but we knew that there was a huge clinical signal that everything worked.
Yeah.
But now, up until about 2005, when, you know, cannabis and all of this reform started to happen and all of this research started coming out, which is like, wait a minute, it doesn't make our brain bleed. It actually increases brain connectivity.
Yeah.
It helps people focus. It can get to the root cause of your issues so that you don't have to put a Band-Aid on your depression for the rest of your life with SSRIs or antidepressants that work only 15% of the time.
Yeah.
And that's been proven over placebo.
Of course.
So Nixon's war on drugs was a big reason. And in this country, there's a for-profit prison system. It was a way to imprison marginalized communities, black, brown. So there's still a lot of factors at play.
Of course.
Because think of the hypocrisy. There's a medical marijuana program in a lot of states in this country,
Yep.
Yeah.
yet still scheduled,
Yeah.
right? There's CBD that's Epidiolex, approved for childhood seizures. It's a cannabinoid from the cannabis plant, FDA approved. Cannabis plant is still scheduled, right? So you think about why
How does that make sense?
doesn't make any other than the political,
Well, they gotta make some money.
aspirations of the DEA
Yeah.
and the
Yes.
for-profit. And but it's coming. You know, research, headwinds, people like you guys being positively impacted, young kids getting on platforms talking about it, lobbying. The first thing I did was I introduced policy and started to marry up with like Initiative 81, which decriminalized these substances. So you just get involved locally and nationally with other veterans and organizations, tell the story, and then thank gosh for the FDA studies, because now we're able to leverage this scientific research to open up more of these states to say, hey, this is safe. It's going to be a medicine soon.
Yeah.
You know, don't fall behind.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think they've been hiding it obviously for a reason. Imagine if
Well, it works.
everyone took a dose today in the world. What kind of world that would be by tomorrow?
People
right?
would be calmer and it would be a nicer world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like
Yeah.
from the perspective of, I mean, there's probably so many different things it can heal, but I think from the perspective of like anxiety, just anxiety alone, because of the life we live, phones, everything, computers, all social media, such a fast-paced lifestyle, all those things, like anxiety's been fucking through the roof. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I know a single person in my life that isn't suffering from it to some extent. Some obviously more than others, and I'm just like, feels like such a new thing. Obviously anxiety's been around forever, but it's like at the forefront of the way we live in, maybe I'll say North America. I don't know about Europe. I won't speak to other continents, but it's at the forefront. And it's like you said, like if everyone just tried some fucking shrooms, like I'm saying it in the most like stupid way.
But they would also be like super awakened too. Like that's another thing that I noticed
100%.
when I took shrooms. Like the next day I was like super aware
Absolutely.
of things, like people, of my surroundings, of what people are saying. Like,
And you're also catching things, again, because it makes you, decompresses your nervous system, so you're more in the present moment. When you're in the present moment, you notice how beautiful the tree is.
yep.
Yeah.
You notice how beautiful the sun is.
Yeah.
When you're running from meeting to meeting,
Yeah, I know.
email to email, you miss out.
Yeah.
And so this helps reconnect
Yeah.
you
What-
back to what's important. And
course.
those are the things that are important. Is, you know.
But I don't think they would want a world filled with people that are that
Yeah.
awake.
And listen, man, I'm, you know.
I'm gonna sound like a conspiracy theorist.
No,
obviously,
not at
but-
all. No. You talk a lot about, you're on the kind of like the Burning Man type of waking up everybody, consciousness expanding, and I'm more so on like kind of, I wouldn't say that's like, I believe in it. It's true. It can happen, but I'm more so on the take the medicine, neuro anti-inflammatory. Alzheimer's runs in my family. I have 4 kids. I'm a businessman. I need to come back into my community without the malabeads and the gown and the things, and how do I use it to be a better parent?
Yes.
Right. These types of things. So
course.
there's a ton of different uses, which is really exciting.
which also
about
that
it.
just speaks to how powerful it is and how
Yeah.
important it can be. I think the
Well,
reason,
with intention.
Yes.
With
Yes.
intention.
Correct.
If you're and isn't that, I'm sure you guys seem somewhat evolved as far as like listening to philosophy and attracting and putting out there what you want.
Yep.
Yeah.
And manifesting a life that you can be proud of.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of opportunity for me to try to get revenge over the last 2 years because of what's happened business-wise. When I was in that mindset, I was suffering, man.
For real,
and when I
yeah.
finally just kind of forgave and didn't forget because I'm not going to put myself in those situations, and then moved on.
Yeah.
It's like, then all of a sudden all these new opportunities start coming my way instead of living in anger, you know?
I think the reason we,
real, bro.
Yeah.
I think the reason we probably lean to that side in terms of like the mass awakening and stuff like that is because when we did like our first like big like shroom session, whatever you want to call it.
That was a ceremony, dude.
Yeah,
now that I think about
it. When you put it that way, it was like just as the pandemic hit, I think like the first weekend when like the world shut down, we had our office for our agency back in Toronto.
a lot of fear in people at that
Absolutely.
time. You know, very
And so
close-minded.
that's
You
gonna
got
be-
close-minded,
and that's
right?
going to be at the forefront when you do the medicine. Mushrooms specifically, it exasperates what's at the forefront of everybody's mind, what everybody's feeling. So sometimes it can get a little icky, but you can definitely move through it.
Yeah.
And it should get icky. You're usually doing it for a reason.
Of
You want to
course.
see something.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened. We did it, and again on the conspiracy theorist wave, we were like, "What the fuck? What is this shit, bro? What is this fucking pandemic bullshit? What the fuck's going on?"
Yeah.
And it's funny because that ended up changing the trajectory of this podcast and everything we did,
businesses,
our
everything.
businesses, our relationships with people moving forward, and it's been nothing but positive. That's why like when I sit here and I say everyone's got to try it to some extent, I truly believe it.
Yeah.
Because when I look at my own experiences, our experiences in what we've done in the last few years, I gotta say a big part of it is because of, I guess, psilocybin, shrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if there's companies out there, you know, we do offsites, etc. You have, you know, these quarterly earnings or these quarterly goals, or the way I attribute it, you know, in the NHL, being on a team at the beginning of the year, you set a goal and you try to hit it. But then there's always team building before that team, and you get into you go and do something together to get tighter. Yeah. Now imagine if, you know, these group therapies can be integrated with these medicines to, you know, purpose everybody on the exact same path. And when you care about the person next to you, that's usually when you win. Like those were the years that we won on the Blackhawks, when everybody cared about each other and was more connected. True. So now imagine if you're a company that wants to have everybody in cohesion, then you can use this medicine. Now, that being said, it can't happen now because most big companies' liability, and they're scheduled. But once they're approved as medicines, then they get descheduled, similar to what ketamine is a Schedule 3 because it's an FDA-approved medicine. MDMA will be a Schedule 3 because they just got approval. And then Compass Pathway is in phase 3 using psilocybin for treatment-resistant depression. So hopefully, in the next 3 years, when they get approval, it'll be descheduled to a Schedule 3.
So Schedule 1, you can't do nothing. It's
Can't research, go to risk of going to jail for 20 to 30 years.
Yeah, and you also said it's addictive.
It's one of the qualifications that this substance is highly addictive, and number 2 is that there is no medicinal value. For example, cocaine's a Schedule 3 because they use it as an anesthesia in the hospital system.
Nice.
But like shrooms, in my experience, are not addictive at all.
I was gonna say that. Yeah.
They aren't. No, it's hypocrisy. Go back to what we spoke about before.
Yeah. But in your experience, it hasn't been addictive to you,
No, I mean,
right?
well, how often do you want to see everything that's wrong with you and then try to move past it?
So let's say someone was looking to, let's say, try it for the first time.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to them?
Go to a clinic or look up a clinic, and I'm involved in healing maps. It's the same thing as weed maps that maps out all of the different retreat centers and ketamine clinics across the nation outside of it. So go there. Oregon's open for business. We're opening up a psilocybin clinic.
Yeah, cool.
So people can travel to Oregon and legally do it in a statewide program. So I would just tell people to do your research. Make sure, number 1, where the source is coming from, etc. But also, too, like I say, all of this isn't medical advice. This is just me, you know, moving and looking and understanding that if you can show people a way to heal and live, then you can provide hope. And unfortunately, because these phones it's so easy to get us with fear, not a lot of people have a lot of hope right now, and there's a lot of anxiety in these things. So even just researching something new, going to Johns Hopkins, NYU Langone, looking at these FDA studies, there's so much research coming online about how beneficial these things are for the soul, the spirit, the body, and the mind.
Yeah.
Just go do it, man. Go do some research, get yourself some hope, and then figure out a responsible way to access it. But for mushrooms, Oregon would be number 1. Colorado, it's decriminalized. There's 32 decriminalized cities. That just means that you can't get arrested and prosecuted for it. Right. You know, if you're selling it breaking the law that way.
Of course.
Don't do that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So so now let's get into the business side of things.
Sure.
When, I guess you did the ceremony,
Uh-huh.
you weren't involved in any businesses at that point.
No, nothing. At that point I owned and operated a studio rink, but I just kind of sold it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when did the first kind of project come to be after that? And how did it come to be?
So the first project was me, right? So like advocating for, you can invest more in yourself than you do in your job.
Yep.
Because the better you are, the better you're going to get paid, the more skills you have, etc. So I was like, I just need to figure out how to get better.
Okay.
So I did this medicine. I immediately knew that after day one, I was getting better.
Yeah.
So I stayed on it. Nothing gets fixed in 5 hours. We made a low dose regimen, so sub-perceptual, where you don't have to hallucinate.
Okay.
Combined it with 14 other mushrooms.
Okay. What are the other mushrooms like? What
Lion's mane that
Okay.
increases BDNF.
Yes.
It's in this
Some of the
product.
drink, yeah.
Cognitive processing,
Okay.
sharpness, alertness, brain fog, brain fatigue. It takes it all away. And then, cordyceps for energy, chaga, agarikon, turkey tail. All mushrooms are pretty much anti-inflammatory in nature. They help clean our GI tract out. So just getting on a specific regimen, I mixed in CBD that was minimally processed. It's a keef. It's the patented neuroprotectant, the only patented neuroprotectant on earth, patented by the U.S. government, 1999, as it relates to neuronal death against Parkinson's, ALS. So I was like, well, put this on board, with the other mushrooms. And that was it, man. I worried about exercise, nutrition, and got better within 6 months.
Yeah.
First thing I did was I used my platform for policy work. So I did Initiative 81 and Decriminalized Nature and a couple of these educational kind of statewide programs where everybody should have access to something that grows out of the earth. And as long as you don't sell it, right, you can grow, gather, and gift it, give it away for free, and you're in a decriminalized city, they won't prosecute you. So I was starting to flip some cities on with that. Met Rick Doblin of MAPS. Told him my stories. Like, you have to try to get this to people. There's no FDA approved medicine for traumatic brain injury, concussion. So I founded a company, put some drug developers together. This is while I was growing 3,000 hemp plants for CBD and starting, a company similar to this called Made Plant. And so built a deck, patented with my own money, a regimen, because you need IP to do drug development. Raised, $16 million, took it public on the CSE within 4 months. This was what I was doing the last 3 years.
Okay.
Owned and operated ketamine clinics that were psychiatrist led, expanded that footprint, recently sold those 2 assets off, and we're winding that down. And now I'm involved in something that we saw a huge gap in the not only the psychedelic industry, but healthcare industry, which is a REIT, so a real estate investment trust focused on the healthcare, health and wellness space. So, med spas, dentist offices, psychiatrists doing psychedelic assisted therapy. The number one thing is when you think of how it's going to get rolled out medically, when you go to a doctor and you get a prescription for the FDA approved medicines, there's no infrastructure to go into a clinic and sit there and do these medicines for 6 hours, similar to what you did with your ceremony, right?
Yeah.
So we're building that infrastructure.
Cool.
We're partnering with physicians through Healing Realty Trust, and we just kicked off the institutional desk raise today with Piper Sandler, which is exciting. So I've been working on that silently, diligently for the last year and a half. We have microdoses, something that's, I want to say like the recreational piece to it. It's fun. You can build
I'm
some
loving it, by
brands.
the way. I'm loving it.
It's a nice
It's
buzz,
nice,
right?
it's nice, it's
Nice and calm, but you're still very
aware, very locked in. Yep.
Advocacy work. I sit on the board of Psychedelic Medicine Coalition. I'm a board member there. We've done 2 congressional briefings, just educating, staffers on what this medicine is, because everybody is still confused. And then, we've got Oregon, where we're getting a psilocybin clinic off the ground. So,
Nice.
those are all the things that I've been involved in.
First of all, that's fucking impressive. Like, holy shit, dude.
What a resume.
That's unbelievable. Congrats on everything you've done and
Thanks.
what you're continuing to do. I want to ask you kind of what that transition's been like from pro athlete to, let's say, entrepreneur now. And the reason I want to ask it is because I feel like there's a lot of people who feel stuck in what they're doing and maybe don't love it, and want to make a transition to something different in their life, but are sort of scared. Maybe they've been a pro athlete for 10 years, or they've been stuck in the same job for 10 years or 20 years. And, you know, because we have people that watch this, you know, this podcast that are 20, but also people who are 45 and who reach out to us all the time who are like, fuck, I wish I could do this. I wish I could get into that. But I, you know, whether it's from a security and comfortability standpoint or financial security, whatever, or maybe just not understanding how to flip the switch, right?
So I get a lot of people that say, and that have said, well, you're a rich athlete, you know, we glad that you can do all these different ventures. I'm like, man, I have to work to pay my bills still.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a rich athlete, you know? And so number one, it's a lot of hard work, getting up at, you know, early in the morning and going to bed late at night, having your computer out when you're putting your kids down. I've got 4 kids, you know, like just continually diving in. And this is why a lot of investors back people that have passion projects, because a lot of businesses are just really hard to do.
Yeah.
You need to be a little bit squirrely to take on one project, let alone a couple.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I would say to people that are sitting at home that might be thinking that you can change tomorrow. You can decide to open up. Like last night, I started building an open AI widget, you know, for education, on just so I don't have to be there all the time. So I'm going to give this thing everything I know, and then it can scale and help. Like, I just thought about that and got some direction. I called a friend. I need some help. Where can I do? And then started building it.
Wow.
Just, it's like from the thought to the execution.
Yes.
To tons of people have great ideas. So I would say, and again, some of these projects, you know, I'm the chief operating officer of Healing Realty Trust, which is my job. You know, I get paid for it. It's the first thing I do in the morning, etc. The other things that I work on are after hours.
Yeah.
You know, but I'm still working it. So I don't subscribe to excuses. I think they're fucking bullshit. I think that's bullshit. I think that, and that person isn't ready, you know, but when you are ready, what's important to do and try to do anyways is, you know, if you go on my Instagram, there's a thing called The Crew that people, and so we're going to do these weekly webinars free to just get on a community of men. Women are welcome too, but to just talk about what they're doing and see if there's matches for individual. How do I build a deck, Dan? Like, how do I, if I want to raise money, how do I build a deck and communicate my story and then reach out to friends and family? Like, how do I set up an LLC? How do I, so, you know, it's not easy, but it's also, it's difficult, but it's not rocket science. Anybody can do it.
Yep.
You know, so you know, and listen, man, I get these comments all the time on calls like, wow, like you're really articulate. You know your stuff, you know your science, you know this. And, you know, it's like everybody thinks that you're the dumb jock. And I take that as a compliment, you know, because number one, I don't talk about anything that I don't know inside and out. And I don't talk about anything that I haven't done, whether it's worked for me or not, you know? So.
Yeah, no, it's dude, I agree. I don't subscribe to excuses either. We try to tell people the same fucking thing. At the end of the day, everyone's got a great idea. It's who's going to execute.
Yeah.
Right.
And just make a list. The best thing to do, like whether it's on your phone or notes, like just jot down all day. Cause we all have these thoughts or even before sleeping, like jot it down and then, you know, wake up. And when you have the time, do it, you know, build it. Yeah. And then if you start doing that, then you're going to start attracting people in your life that are going to be able to help you.
Yes.
Call it the manifestation piece. But if you're not actively working on it, then, you know, you're going to be stuck, unfortunately, maybe in a job that you don't like. And, you know, newsflash though, like most people don't like their job. Even like there's parts of the job that you guys are doing and that I'm doing right now that I don't like.
Yeah.
Of course.
But it's a job.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's life.
You got to get it so that the ratio's like 99% you like, and then there's the 1% you don't like.
So if you think that farming is going to make you happy, or you
Yeah.
think that cooking or starting your own, you know, usually hobbies and things that you enjoy end up becoming businesses in some weird ways, right?
Yeah.
So, and just don't put too much pressure on yourself. You know, I'm writing my book and just kind of mapping out where I've come from and where I want to go. And some days I do it, some days I don't. Like don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
In terms of creating habits, because I guess last 3-4 years you've been doing that a lot.
Yeah.
Right. We get a lot of questions too about like creating new habits, sticking to something.
Yeah.
What advice would you have on that side?
I'll do it for 14 days.
14 days.
14 days. It's a habit. It's a neuronal pathway that's embedded.
Okay.
You know, and you know, once you get over that hump, it should be pretty easy. And again, like doing these things and having this type of discipline, no matter what you want to do or what you want to achieve, like getting up every morning and running, it sucks every single day. Getting up and getting in the cold tub, it sucks every single day.
Yeah.
But the more that you can, again, shut that lizard brain off and just, I know I feel better when I work out, when I cold tub, you get in, you do the thing, and then you immediately, your day is, you have no shame, you have no guilt, you have no fear the rest of your day.
Yeah.
So doing a couple tasks early in the morning, and keeping your contract with yourself. I make these deals with myself like I did today. Like I got to be up at this time so I can get my workout in so that I can drive down. I'm going to be in traffic. I got to do this first. I got to meet this person here. Yeah. So, and I woke up and I did the thing, you know, even though sometimes you want to hit snooze, but you just move past it, man.
Yeah. I think that's also the athlete in you too, though. Because sports builds a lot of discipline, right?
Yeah, I'm a little psycho, but in a good way. I'm also very, you know, I'm very different. I'm very calm. When it's off, it's off.
Yeah.
When it's on, it's on,
you
know, and I've started to get a lot better. I used to work all the way until like 10, miss the dinners and miss the time, but I've set very specific blocks, you know, and then if I'm in a block for the read, I'm in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing else that I think about or do. You know? And
even being a father, you mentioned you're a father.
Yeah.
How did
father of 4, yeah.
Congrats. That's amazing.
Thanks,
how did that change your outlook on life? And at what point did you become a father? Was that in your darker times?
My last year, yeah. So last year, the beginning of 2014, November, we had Wolfie, my oldest, Austin Wolf. And then my friend passed away in February, Steve, who had a lot of the same symptoms I did with concussions. Wow. Then in March, I got my 7th concussion, and then we won our 2nd Stanley Cup, and then that's kind of when I decided to walk away. So yeah, he saw it, you know, for 2, 3, 4 years. It wasn't all bad, you know. There were a lot of really good moments, but we have an 8-month-old, and just having kids is amazing, man. It's hard, but they're sponges, right? So everything that is good about you and that's bad about you, they just pick it up. And then, you know, usually when you're yelling at them, it's because they're doing something that you do that you hate about yourself, and you're like, oh man, this is like such a trip. You know, so they force you to be better, you know, and kids are a wonderful way to kind of decompress, get back to nature, get back to what's really important, get back, you know, why do we work this hard? You
For
know,
what?
it has to be.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. What was your motivation to even get better at that point?
Yeah, it was honestly, man, for me, it was selfish. You know, I'm the matriarch. I'm the man. If I fall apart, everything that I built falls apart. 2019, I had 3 kids, I had a house, I had a lot of stuff that I committed to, that I needed to tend to, and I wasn't able to do that in a healthy manner. And so I just took it upon myself to constantly always get better. I always knew that I would get better. I had this belief that there is something that's there's no way that these challenges are being put in front of me because I can't handle them. And, you know, I just pretty continually would always beat bigger guys up. And I just had a belief, always had it. So when I found it, it's like, man, what a blessing to be able to enjoy the life that you've built. You know, and then to be grateful of your past life, and then be grateful for the one that is emerging now. Because without that, I wouldn't be onto these new emerging therapies, without the concussions, without the fights. So it goes back to just perspective and shifting to be grateful. And not every day, man, like I would watch these podcasts, I'm sure you guys do, like, oh, I make a gratitude list and this, and there's a party that's like, man, no fucking way. You know?
Dude, that's me. That's me.
But then when you start doing it, it's fuck.
Yeah, it works.
But I want to beat myself up sometimes, you know, because I feel like it's just so counterintuitive to what I learned, but damn right it works, man. You're in a high heat sauna, make a gratitude list. You'll forget about the pain. You'll forget about the heat.
It's true.
You know, learned that in an Indian sweat lodge in Malibu in 2017, where everybody was just suffering. The guys like, what are you grateful for? And all the pain fades away by being grateful for what you have in your life right now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any like do you have a certain regimen that you do every single day?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wake up before I go to bed, all positive thoughts, kind of priming my subconscious to be great, because, you know, if I'm thinking about all the stress, etc., then I'm ruminating it while I'm sleeping, and then it's going to follow me to the next day. So I try to reset before I go to bed. And as soon as I wake up, just, you know, a bunch of deep belly breaths, usually a workout, then a cold tub, and then, you know, a coffee, see the kids off to school, and then around 8:30 I'll start worrying about work, and once I'm spiritually fit. And some days I don't get the workout in. Some days things come up earlier at 8, I got to be on a call, or so just being, you know, diligent in finding the time for myself. I always have to find those hours, and it's usually, you know, when other people aren't up, or when other people are sleeping.
Yeah.
True. So you had total 7 concussions.
Yeah, 7. Yeah.
How did you even get it to that? Like, you didn't want to stop after like the 3rd concussion?
Man, to be honest, I didn't even.
Because I think they say like the 2nd or 3rd, like.
They don't really have a limit. They really don't.
Okay.
They don't. They have a concussion baseline that we all take, but I don't remember the first 5, to be honest with you, man. You know, the last 2 I remember, but if you can come back and pass your baseline test, you're essentially okay to play again.
And do you agree with those tests?
No, I mean, they're so easy to game, you know, but, you know, then the flip side of it is like, I needed to get back in the lineup to play.
Yeah.
If I was hurt. So how hard do you want them?
Yeah.
And now you know the risk. Now there's degenerative disease and all these things that could happen, and people are pretty well aware. And so some guys are making decisions to walk away sooner, which is good.
Yeah.
But the decision's always, the last line of defense is you. A team doctor is never really going to tell you to hang it up.
Just walk away.
And you mentioned you had, like, there was times where you had suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And why?
Yeah.
I mean, suicide is at its all-time high right now.
Yeah, I mean,
everywhere, for everything.
especially with men, dude.
Yeah. More than ever. Why do you think you never ended up committing suicide?
Number one, I'm very noble in my thinking, where I thought it would obviously be extremely selfish of me, because I started a family, and I just had a belief, man. I've always kind of had this weird, uncomfortable thought that I'm bigger than anything that I really did or was doing. Like when I was pushing the puck around the ice, I'm like, fuck, is this really it? Then when I stopped, so I had this inkling, and I could see when I was telling people about different treatments that it would make people happy, it would light people up, it would provide hope. And I was like, well, you know, I've always liked helping people, making people feel comfortable. It's what I did in the enforcer role subconsciously. And so I just kind of got addicted to feeling good, and then fell into showing people how to, you know, use these medicines that are highly stigmatized, change their mind about them, so that they can benefit, you know, or reap the benefits from these amazing natural full spectrum medicines. We don't use synthetic stuff, you know, albeit it'll be better than the SSRIs and antidepressants. So it's just not my first line of defense, you know? So
And what would you say, let's say, because as you mentioned, men,
yeah.
let's say there's some men watching this right now that are having those thoughts. What would you say to them?
Keep going, you know, keep doing research, you know, go to Johns Hopkins, NYU Langone, go look at these clinical trial studies, go look at Measure 109 in Oregon, go look at craniosacral, go look at hormone replacement therapy, peptides, ketones for concussion, hyperbaric chamber, float tanks, cold exposure, cryo, high heat sauna, reflexology, Rolfing. I mean, the list can go on. Like I can give you, just don't give up, you know, don't give up, and continue to just seek out. I mean, we have the answer now. The answer's here.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an example of it. No Fallen Heroes, Matthew Wiz Buckley. There's hundreds of individuals that we've taken through this therapy that have benefited in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And now it's time to tell a broader audience, you know, not just athletes, executives, and vets.
Have any other guys from the NHL reached out to you?
Yeah, lots.
Yeah.
Tons of them go through this, man. After
I
every
could
season,
imagine.
they reset. Some guys are doing it, you know, during Christmas break. It's just a way to protect the brain, decompress, And also you can access a flow state, which is what you need in hockey when the puck drops and
Yep.
everything else fades away.
Nothing else matters. Yeah.
Nothing else matters. You guys have probably felt it in business. You know, 4 hours go by when you're answering emails in the zone. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
We feel that at every shift, right? So it's just a way to tap deeper into that to make you more attuned.
Yeah.
Similar to what we were talking about before. Keep you in the present moment so you're making better decisions. You're a better father, businessman, friend. That's the way.
Yeah. Have you ever tried ayahuasca?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, pretty amazing.
It's a whole other level.
It's a whole other level. Yeah. I had a large fear of death. Went to Terapoto, Peru with Jesse Gould of Heroic Hearts Project, another veteran organization that connects vets with psychedelic assisted therapy. High jungle, 3 days, give up your phone, 3 dosing schedules, very strict diet a month before, 2 months after. And I wanted to go in and just, I want to know, I've always questioned where we came from, why we're here. How did, the Alan Watts line of thinking, how did we wake up without never having gone to sleep? Yeah. And then how, when we go to sleep, where are we going to go? Yeah. And I think it's important to have these questions, and because it helped me decompress from being such a stress ball with the kids. I didn't get on a plane till I was drafted to the NHL, till I had to, because I just was convinced I was going to die. So it allowed me to kind of confront that, communicate with my grandparents who passed away. I had a lot of birth and death when I first retired. And saw Steve, saw Ray Emery, a bunch of my friends, was able to put that to bed. But it's intense. It's, you purge, you're in a Molucca, middle of the high jungle, no phone, internet.
Yeah.
But it was some of the best medicine work I've ever done in my life, man.
Yeah.
Recommend it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I recommend Peru, right? I don't go to the guy in LA with the garage. So it's like, man,
In the
I hear
Hollywood
about
Hills.
these stories.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
We've had some
Costa
friends
Rica
do
as
it.
well, right?
We've had some friends do it. Yeah, it's usually at Guatemala, Peru.
Yeah.
I've always thought about doing it. It's like and me, like with fucking psychedelics, I'm never scared. But that's the one where I'm like, fuck.
It's
that
a
was-
you purge, 'cause
it's
you
a nice
purge.
reset. Yeah, you purge, and these spirits kind of talk to you. And the number one thing on the second night, we did a big dose, and I had a film crew there. So I'll send you guys the doc. It's
Sick.
time.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube, on my channel. And there's these, what was happening was these spirits were pulling my consciousness out of my body and then dropping it back in, showing me essentially that I wasn't in control of my own breath, saying kind of like, when we're ready to come and get you, you don't really have any control, right? So you might as well just enjoy it.
So don't be scared of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and pulling me out, and they would say, look, like, you're not breathing anymore. And I was like, it looked like I was dead. And then they would drop me in 30 seconds or so, and I would gasp. And they did this 12 or 30. I remember hearing out of the corner of my ear, these guys were like, hey man, is this normal?
Yeah.
But and then it took me to this place in between the clouds where I was able to communicate with everybody that had passed on, make my amends, see how they were in their best form. My grandmother didn't have Alzheimer's. My grandfather was chiseled in the garden back in Toronto, all those things, and it just makes you realize that, again, it's a hard thing to explain, right? Being so high operating, but then also this idea of giving up control. It doesn't mean that you're kind of just going to sit there and be a passerby or a non-participative in your life. Like, you're still going to work in these other things. But think about how much has to go right for an individual to cut you a check for the business that you're trying to communicate to them, or a goal on the ice. Like, think about the other 9 guys that have to do something in order for this puck to, there's so many little details that are out of your control.
Yep.
So the message was just control what you can control. Life is beautiful. They sing these Icaros and stuff, and it was pretty magical, man. It was an amazing experience. So I would recommend it.
Damn.
La Medicina, though, I'll send you guys.
Yeah,
the retreat.
plug
You
us
got to go
in,
to somewhere responsible,
Yes,
for
for
sure.
sure.
They grow all the medicine on the property, everything.
You said you had to diet before and after.
Yeah,
that?
about a month
And
before.
what's that look like?
Like, no red meats, no caffeine, no tobacco. Yeah.
Oh, you're fucked.
You guys
You're
are
done.
fucked.
You're done.
I'll do this in 10 years.
It's like you guys are going to stick to the mushrooms.
I'm going to purge just from that diet.
That'll be good enough.
Right? Oh my God. We got one more question for you.
Yeah.
The famous question.
Yeah.
Yeah. obviously we are the MBH podcast, Money Buys Happiness.
Yeah.
I know you kind of answered it earlier, but I want to ask Dan if you believe money buys happiness.
Do I believe money buys happiness? I really don't. No, I believe in. I mean, these are the things I believe in: is do good, have fun, do it with good people, make money, and in that order, you know. And anytime that I've followed that, I've always done all three. When I put the third one in front of the others, it gets a little hairy for me.
You don't do the other two.
Or I just partner with people that are focused on the
only
capital
that one.
markets, the thing that I don't necessarily want to put my mind towards.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I live my life. But money, I don't think it buys happiness, but it, again, I said it before, it buys comforts.
Yeah.
And, you know, but I'm never a guy that's kind of, I don't do labels and all that. And I don't care if you do, like, great.
Yeah.
You know, my wife loves that stuff. Right? So I just want to be able to, you know, live a comfortable life, spend as much time as I can with my kids, and you know, and have them see how hard I work. And if you work hard and you treat people the right way, you can achieve a lot of really nice comforts.
Yeah.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Where can someone find you if they wanna chat with you or get on a webinar or anything like that?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, www.danielcarcillo.com, Facebook, Daniel Carcillo 13 on Instagram, at CarbonBoom13 on X.
There's the car bomb.
Yeah, can't change it. Can't change it. And Healing REIT, or at Healing REIT on the socials,
Beautiful.
on LinkedIn. Go check out what we're doing there. We're you know, building out the infrastructure so that people can do psychedelic assisted therapy when it's FDA approved.
Yes.
Ketamine, MDMA. Got Oregon fired up. Probably gonna, you know, do some crowdfunding there. I'll keep you guys in the loop. And then
Amazing.
microdoses, 60 ml shots out. Got the rest gummies that are amazing.
Nice.
Cordialis, passion flower, all natural adaptogenic herbs, and the Ascend gummies too. So rolling, man.
Sick.
Oh, gonna need some gummies, bro.
Fuck yeah, dude.
All right,
I'll definitely
appreciate
get
it,
you
man.
guys.
Appreciate you coming.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you so much for coming down, man. It's an absolute pleasure. Guys,
buddy.
if you made it this far and we know you did, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. 5 stars on fucking everything. All right.
Let's go, baby.
Love you guys. Jay?